come now and give tribute to Grant on behalf of the Bergey family. Ted, why don't you come?
I'll refer to this later. My father once sung a song for us that started this way. God has not promised skies always blue, flower-strewn pathways all our lives through. God has not promised sun without rain, joy without sorrow, peace without pain. But God has promised strength for the day, rest for the labor, light for the way, grace for the trials, help from above. Unfailing kindness, undying love. It's amazing how strength can fade in moments of stress. It's my honor to be chosen to express on behalf of the Bergey family a few words to share with you our memories of Grant as loving husband, father, grandfather, brother, and friend. Dan would have liked to, and could have done this, as we saw him so very ably take on the role of Master of Ceremonies at his sister Debbie's wedding. I am indeed proud to serve in his stead. We all certainly appreciate the tributes, the prayers, the concern and help that have been so freely offered and given by those who know Grant and Barbara as their neighbors, their colleagues, the church community, and extended family. To the larger community of lifelong friends and relatives who have gathered here to share and help us through our grieving, we thank you for your condolences and most particularly for sharing your memories of Grant and his widespread influences on so many throughout the years. I personally like to think of Grant not only as a fighter, but as a champion. This implies the ability to arise above the mere challenges of life to a position where he was able to give of himself freely to those he loved and lived with, worked with, and met in all walks of life. He had real star quality. One of Grant's endearing traits was his great sense of humor and his love of a good story, well told by himself or another person. He could enjoy a good laugh so much so that he would have to remove his glasses and wipe his eyes. If I notice that you are wiping your eyes, I'll prefer to view it as a tribute to Grant in this keen sense of fun. He might tell in exquisite detail a recent problem that he was having. Then with his characteristic expression, but hey, he would start to tell a story or look on the positive side of the situation. Score one for Grant. Since Grant and I were not genealogical scholars at the time, we could not have known that the name Barbara is one of tradition back to the 1800s in the Bergey family tree. We were just supremely fortunate, each of us, to win a Barbara for ourselves, who would be a lover and true helpmate throughout our lives. Barbara has stressed to us that Grant always strived to live life to the fullest. The fact that he has been an inspiration to all of us is proof that he did just that. She speaks both with her voice and her eyes that Grant was such a loving, compassionate, and considerate husband, always endeavoring to put her first and to let her achieve her own personal strengths. Grant was indeed the ultimate family man. He exuded deep pride when he told any of us about the achievements of his Barbara, their children, and their grandchildren. He loved them all collectively, but he also found time to focus that love on each of them individually. He was there for them, often before they even realized it. His problem-solving skills, his wisdom, and his compassion would be brought to bear on needs and concerns, often before they were fully realized. Yet he was also able to step back and let them take the steps that were necessary to achieve their goals through personal growth. He believed in them. I must stress here that the influence that Grant had on those he met was anchored in the deep love, support, and understanding of Barbara. The strength of their love for each other and their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ was the touchstone of the very positive things they did for and the inspiration they provided to so many of us. Others will attest to that today. We know that everyone Grant encountered has their own individual story of what he has meant to them. And it would be part of a wide and varied group of stories. I would like to highlight a few I've heard. Vehicles are a recurring theme in anecdotes about Grant. No doubt you've seen the photo of his grandson Tyler proudly driving Papa's John Deere tractor. It's hard to tell who was having the most fun. We know that certainly all of the folk at the campground are going to miss having their grass cut and their snow blown by their mobile friend. When Barbara was safely somewhere else, he even conned someone into hoisting him on the front end loader of a tractor onto a roof so he could help to shingle it. He liked tractors almost as much as his father did, and he could coax them to help in his agricultural endeavors. His foray into farming included a variety of tractors and implements which would test a saint, but he was always up to the challenge, viewing it almost as a test of his character, his resources, and his physical conditioning. Now, imagine, if you would, Grant tooling along a stretch of Highway 401, test driving a motorized go-kart with his friends. Little matter that the newly finished road was not open to traffic yet. Others remember his early days as a scrap metal collector with his beloved friend Reg. They loaded an anemic Volkswagen pickup truck with enough iron and fencing to make it overflow like a hay wagon, and proceeded at 20 miles per hour to Chatham for a rendezvous with their favorite junkyard dog. He proudly told me how later in his career he engineered a small convoy of oversized trucks with extra wide and heavy loads from Hamilton to the naval dockyards in New York City, with police escorts and a pilot truck driven by Dan. Cars were a special challenge. And he kept them going for all of his family as they evolved through their education and early careers. It's true that there was even a rite of passage for Dan's new wife, Paula, into the Bergey fold. She had to bring her car over to Grant to let him change the oil and keep it running shipshape. And the pièce de résistance was his 30-foot motorhome, which he drove to the West Coast and Florida. Since he had hand controls in it, he parked his legs beside him to use as cup holders. Others remember fondly long-term friendships nurtured over wood-cutting bees on Saturday to provide firewood. He always had a project on the go or would be there to help you if you had one in progress. Many decks, roofs, fireplaces, added rooms, or other projects stand as memorials to his boundless energy and willingness to give of himself to help others. He knew how to make it happen. Grant knew how to tell people where to go, in the very best sense of the words. Keeping their best interest in mind, he could tell his clients where to go, how to get there, what to get, when to get it, where to take it, what to do with it, all in the name of efficient service and balanced profit for all parties concerned. A great deal could be said about his business acumen and his tack-sharp memory for detail, working in the interests of people and companies which needed high-quality service. He always astounded us by the fact that he could be going strong in a new job within days of stopping a previous one. We also admired the fantastic good fortune that he experienced when he teamed with his business partner, Don Ainsworth, to work in their own business. Don will give you some idea of that relationship. His love of travel may have been a genetic imprint from our parents, but was certainly nourished by his uncanny ability to see the overall picture, where hard work needed to be balanced with chances to see the world that he was sending others into. When it was his time to make the wheels turn, he did it in great style, astonishing all of us. Their travels included trips to Hawaii, Costa Rica, Colombia, Florida, and the east and west coasts of Canada. Would you believe that he was even questioned severely in Colombia and had his wheelchair searched because the gel padding in the seat of the chair tested positive for drugs? Ouch! Picture Barbara sequestered in another room while he was being grilled. Snowstorms seemed to be attracted to Grant. In both Keswick and Mississauga, we remember him moving mountains of snow to keep his sugar in balance. Sure, Grant. In reality, our mother went into labor during the worst snowstorm of 1945. And Dad took her with a horse and cutter about 5 miles down the third line of Aldborough and along the Furnival Road until the doctor could meet and pick her up in his car to return to Rodney. Grant was born by the time Dad got into Rodney with the horse. A week later, on a bobsleigh, pulled by 2 massive horses, we piled crates of eggs and surrounded them with straw and bouncy kids along for the ride to deliver the eggs and to see Grant for the first time. It is very fitting that today, Grant will be going back along the Furnival Road and the third line to his final earthly resting place. I don't think he was ever a Boy Scout, but he was always prepared. And the lines, "I go before you to prepare a resting place, that there you may be with me always," are doubly fitting, because Grant will be interred beside his mother and father and two infant brothers in a part of the McLean Cemetery that was leveled by our dad over 70 years ago. I said it was dual purpose, and I meant it. As we help to close the cover on the book, This Well-Lived Life, we can wipe away our tears of sadness or laughter, knowing that through a wealth of shared memories, we can reopen, reread, and re-experience this wonderful life story. We are all challenged to be a living sequel to this inspiring and humorously triumphant installment of the Bergey family saga. Our truest monument to his memory will be the continuation of our lives as an embodiment of all that he stood for in his life, which he lived to the fullest in a sure and certain belief in the risen Christ. Au revoir, champ, till we see you again. Now, Barbara and the family have asked that the words that are printed in the memorial card be read as well, and they're very meaningful to them, and I will do that at this time. God saw you getting tired when a cure was not to be, so he closed his arms around you and whispered, "Come to me." In tears we saw you sinking. We watched you fade away. Our hearts were truly broken. You fought so hard to stay. But when we saw you sleeping peacefully and free from pain, we could not wish you back to suffer that again. So keep your arms around him, Lord, and give him special care. Make up for all he suffered that seemed to us so unfair. So many times we've needed you. So many times we've cried. If love could have saved you, you never would have died. God bless all of us.
Thanks, Ted. I'm going to ask Grant's son-in-law, Dave, if he would come now, and he's going to sing Blessed Assurance. And Dave is, as most of you know, is married to Grant's daughter, Debbie, but he's going to be accompanied by his friend, Stephen Bauer. So I'll invite them to come now.